Welcome. You're connected to Transmissions from the Campfire. I am the operator. Our narratives of the odd, the humorous, and the downright horrifying serve to provide a brief respite from the cold, cruel winds of reality, and in turn, bring a measure of warmth to those weary souls that just might need it the most. Perhaps then the memories of humanity may live on, if only for a moment. Our original stories, set in the Roaring Fork Valley and beyond, are written by Patrick Quinn Kitson, whose works include novels Talented and Pyre, and short story compilations Night and Day. Each transmission is performed and engineered by myself, Daniel Kelley. Tonight, we bring you a tale of fortitude. The world's conflicts are full of small victories. Hidden in the shadows of epic strife exist quiet, often unsung tales of small triumph, singular struggles that fail to garner more attention than a forlorn retelling in the twilight hours. With no more instinct than to safeguard the weak against injustice, these modest heroes each contribute a single thread to that great tapestry of good versus evil that overshadows us all. Please, sit back, relax, savor your drink of choice, and enjoy. This is Strummin.
When you've been strumming as long as I have, you see some crazy things, let me tell you. Me, I've seen quite a myriad of sights in my time here on the old mudball, yes'm. And despite the truly ugly stuff I've been privy to on the odd occasion, I can tell you without a blip in the vitals that this is one beautiful damn rock we all ended up on here. Man, one spectacular stone. We should be so lucky, us mere humans with our imperfections and misgivings, but lucky is damn sure what we all got, by and large. Lots of folks these days spend all manner of effort and energy focusing on all the things going wrong across this lovely planet and can't see the literal forest for the trees, let alone roll up a sleeve and get to work fixing something. It's comforting for some to lament their woes and worries. Man, I get it. And it's certainly true that we got lots of existential crises to grapple with in the near and present. Oh heavens, yes we do. But this here Earth, the one right below you and me at this very moment, it remains a gorgeous, wonder-filled cornucopia of geological spectacles and biological marvels stitched together in a vibrant tapestry of colors, elements, music, people, places, smiles, tears, nature, water, light, culture, and those all-too-blue skies that we as humans get to gaze up at on a cloudless day. I'm telling each and every one of you that we struck it rich. In the cosmological gold rush, we set pick to one mighty ore vein of life and have been banking hard ever since. This planet fucking rocks. And the thing about anything that rocks as hard as our planet does is that to ensure it keeps on rocking, you gotta fight for it. Whether fighting is your cup of joe or not. Otherwise, it never had any value to begin with. That fight can come in the form of preserving cultural heritage. It can manifest as protecting family legacy. It can develop as maintaining environmental equilibrium, or arrive via something as innocuous as saying a kind word to a neighbor when you see them out on a mid-morning stroll. Me, I don't see neighbors on strolls because I don't really have a hometown anymore. My part of the fight takes me all over, though. Still, I do tend to mostly stay in or around Colorado on account of the weather and the air. For me, the Rockies offer up the best of both. Yet, as a rambling man at heart, I never stay anywhere for too long. Lots to do, you can betcha. Plenty of strumming left in these tired hands. Plenty of campfire justice to mete out. This is how I do my own little part to fight for the good stuff the planet still has to offer. Right now, I'm arriving in a place you've probably heard of before, Telluride, Colorado. Real beaut of a mountain town. Also, the site of one of the better-known film festivals in North America, though I can't say I've been yet. Maybe this year I will. What I come for, though, is the people. You gotta love these mountain people. They're a different breed. A warmth emanates from the mountaineers among us. And I'm not just talking about the cliff crawlers and jeep jumpers, but rather the day-to-day folk living la dolce vita in those tiny towns that beat with the vibrant lifeblood of the Colorado Rockies. kind of folks that got it made in the shade. This particular party I've come to is the Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and it's my personal fave. The name says it all, really. Sweet tunes, lush eats, good times, lovely days, and better nights with a smattering of human moments more precious than gold. It's a bit of a wait sometimes, but once you're inside, the vibe carries you along as though you've been ushered into the Emerald City via horse-drawn carriage. Tendrils of smoke float in wisps from all the parked food trucks and vendor booths as charcoal gas-fired grills, hissing and filling the air with the mouth-watering aroma of sizzling fat and fire-scalded meats, are cooked up into a vast array of culinary delights. Brisket, baked beans, gyros, lemonade, turkey legs, corn dogs, barbecue, pulled pork sandwiches, brown mac and cheese, microbrews, German lagers. And all amid the hearty plinking of a steel banjo leading the local band in a warm-up set while the bigger acts get ready behind the staged curtains. The size can be unreal for how small the town actually is. Thousands upon thousands of bodies packed in and spilling over into the area's hotels and VRBO rentals as the weekend revelry kicks off. So much loud chatter and crackling laughter you'd think it was 1999 or 1969. Now, I've always loved music, and I do love me some tasty food. Really, who doesn't? And at about, 200 or so years old now, who can even remember these sort of things?
I've eaten my fair share of delicious victuals.
So I'm not plainly saying that the food you can find in the colorful mountain reaches of Colorado is the best in the world, but it's the kind I prefer all the same. Just like my man John Denver, this is the only place that feels like my home. Been all around, and it's the very best I've found. This is why I fight for the festivals, and I fight for the fairs, and even by extension, fight for the food. In the concert lots and fairgrounds and rave sites and campgrounds, it's always good people looking for a good time, and a good time is what they deserve. I fight for it, and for them. Not to kill, but to correct. To compensate for all the bad, I offset it when I can. I fight, using my guitars and snaring melody as the tip of the whip that I crack at the good times wreckers of the world. The good-for-nothing bottom feeders that would take the joy right out of another person, so long as it adds to theirs. And that ain't cool, man. That ain't groovy, dude. What would Jerry do? Never that, that's what. And so my guitar tips the scales a bit for the good guys. This guitar I got now is just another in a long line. I don't get too attached to them because they're never going to keep up with my hands. I've broken down a few now. And I don't have a Traeger of my own. I just have this couple-decade-old Martin from a friendly dealer out in Steamboat Springs. He said it was the same kind that the man in black was partial to on occasion, and so I said, that'll do. And it has done. Done just fine. Where I tend to do my work is among fair folk who spend hard-won time and money to throw together communal gatherings which enrich and delight us all. The sounds, the sights, the smells, shit, those top-shelf Colorado drugs, all of it so bewitching and ensnaring. The senses don't stand a chance. Walking across the matted grass underfoot, you see all the usual people you'd see, which is to say, any and all kinds. Any and all. Behind the confines of the main events, you'd find the outliers, what some might call the real heart of the party. These are the campsites outside the festivals that fill for the weekend with bushy and bearded revelers, the parking lot tailgaters that pulse with the beat of the drum circles, the tour bus behind the raves where the real after-party happens. Also, a good place to pop up a tent if you've got a small one that's easy to shift about. Always good to make it something basic and forgettable, the color between blue and gray. Every so often, at this festival specifically, there's a time-honored call and response that couldn't be simpler. You'll just be sitting there when some intrepid somebody will shout out, "Festival!" And anyone within earshot will start to call back, "Festival!" rolling the sound wave miles if possible. And on some busy nights, it's very possible. I've heard it carry for nearly 10 miles myself. Straight through the heart of the valley Telluride is nestled in, the echo of the human spirit. As I'm putting up my tent, I hear a fresh wave of that very jubilation rolling up on me, as I, along with all the wacky mountain peeps around me, give out that rebel yell and cry, "Festival!" The vibes are always tangible at outdoor Rocky Mountain functions, most of the indoors as well. The Colorado State Fair down in Pueblo, the Flower Power-fueled Mountain Fair in Carbondale, but especially this one. Telluride has good vibrations for days. Brian Wilson's kind of town. Aside from the musicians and the food crafters who keep the event grooving and grubbing, to say nothing of the various vendors selling their always artsy, always wildly diverse and dynamic wares, there are the industrious and largely ethically minded white hat drug peddlers. The crowd is thick with them. Weed is all but passé now that vapes and edibles are as common as bottled water. Still, acid, shrooms, pills, tabs, opiates, ketamine, and ecstasy are just as essential to some people having a good time as the feet they eventually use to stumble back to their campsite after ingesting said chemicals. The hiss of gas is never too far off either, I don't mind mentioning. Plenty of cheeky fellows with their rusty green nitrous oxide tanks tethered to tailgates and ready to roll eyes back in people's heads. The dealers fill colorful balloons up, which are then ravenously sucked down by an always surprisingly varied smattering of concert goers and festival hounds. Kids not even able to legally vote yet, sucking down oxide balloons with people whose kids are already having kids. Boomers and Zoomers united as one nation under the gaseous groove. And sure, they might be blasting through their brain cells with the same reckless abandon that wild-eyed Japanese fishermen harpooning yelping dolphins possess, but they're really only hurting themselves. They aren't out to make victims of others, for the most part. No big threat there. Not my table, as the waitresses say. No, the real deal Holyfield is, in fact, lurking within the tight folds of the folks who are having a grand old time. The shrouded sharks that swim the shallows looking for heels to nip at. Some seeking to drag hapless victims back into the dark reaches. Always metaphorically, you dig. They're the ones you gotta watch for and pull from. The takers. The handsy assaulters, the rapists, the fatal dose peddlers. Remember at the first Woodstock when that supposedly bunk LSD had people racing off to the hospital to have their stomachs turned out? Back in '69? No? That makes sense. It was a while ago. But trust this old fret tickler right here that the word on the scene was that you needed to specifically avoid the brown acid that was circulating through the crowd, or you were likely to be in the ER before Santana took the stage on day 2. Thing was, it wasn't the acid that was prematurely sending the flower children to that great big festival in the sky. Nah, it was this one wicked prick cat slinging a notably dirty bathtub-grade amphetamine pill that caused all those deaths in Bethel, New York. By golly. And the guy who did it, well, let's just chalk him up to grade A bad dude status and say that it wasn't any kind of accident. Ultimately, it resulted in 2 deaths and a whole lot of good folks went toes up because of the fake white crosses that nasty dude was hawking. He kept pushing the rotten stuff long after the red flags on his product had gone up and people were being taken away in ambulances. I know only too well because it had taken me a day or 2 to locate the man responsible. Once I caught up with him, it only took 4 minutes of me playing my special little tune on the guitar, and he'd aged 40 years. I made sure that he knew precisely what he was doing before I cleared his account. Like so many others of his ilk, killing folks was about one dumb thing. He got off on it. Usually it ain't complicated. Occam's razor in that. By the time he left the fairgrounds, he was cresting his early 70s, in desperate need of a walker and wholly unable to sell drugs of the fatal variety with ease ever again. Probably couldn't even wipe his own ass or get a hard-on any longer either, truth be told. And I damn sure don't always dig what I gotta do, but it's what's gotta get done, you dig? As for me, well, I left all Woodstock '69 feeling fresh as a June daisy. Yes, sir, I did. Plus, I got to see Hendrix, Creedence, and The Who on the same stage. Missed the Dead on account of a random mescaline journey I made with a group of massage therapists in the woods. But I caught up with them at McNichols Arena when it was still jamming, about 10 years later, so no big loss. You see, I didn't plan to make this business my own. As a young man, I didn't know this was a thing I could do, the sapping chords, as I call them, until I heard them in a dream when I was still back in primary school, which was just what we called it back then. One night, woken in fright and wet with sweat, I heard the progression on a circuit in my brain, the music to take from those who seek to only take from others. And I knew what to do as if it was God whispering it into my ear. Who knows? Could have been. And so, what's that make me? Well, I don't know exactly. I don't particularly enjoy what I do, but I don't hate it neither. I don't want to see anyone hurt, but that's also what makes it a neat little gig. I'm keeping folks from getting hurt. You could saddle me with some nom de guerre, a clever moniker, I don't know, a stereomancer, say. But that sounds a bit frilly even for a loose goose like myself. We could honestly leave it at, I take out trash that no one else can smell stinking up the room. As for the actual song, I just play this one progression and it pulls the life straight from whoever is listening and transfers it into me. The longer I play, the more I drain. I can shave off 20 years in 2 minutes. If I dared play a full 7 or 8 minute run, they'd surely hit the floor long before I hit the final chord. I can kill with a song, though I never do. That leaves a mess, and if you want to keep on strumming away, you do best not to let others take notice on the effect your songs have on those unlucky few who put ear to your notes, the monsters in our midst. The ones who sell fentanyl-laced Molly at raves, not because they're ignorant, not because they need the money, but because they know they can offload 100 bunk pills before the first hypothermic body hits the floor in foamy-mouthed convulsions. The same bastards who slip women GHB and then do God knows what with them after that. The nasty things that go bump in the night, the party wreckers, the buzzkills, the killjoys, the black hats. I'll watch them for a good long while, just to make sure that I'm not making mistakes. Never rush it. Unlike our justice system, I'd rather let a bad guy go than pull from some who didn't have it coming to him. If I can't figure it, I drop it, but most of these guys are easy enough to suss out. They have telltale ways that they behave which can tip you off. The manner by which they scan a crowd with their eyes, for example, sort of hawk-like. A few decades at it and you can spot them from a good distance. They rarely emote when no one is watching, or when I'm watching. Funny thing about hunters when they're out hunting, it never ever seems to occur to them that it's them that's the one being hunted. Ever. They always think they're the apex predator. And we call that old number hubris, kiddos. I love to cruise the crowd after I've set up so I can really take in the raw energy abounding. Excitement has its own flavor that fills the air when you hit the smiling rows of anxious and excited masses in their free-spirited nouveau hippie regalia. You can taste the fun about to unfold. And if I can score a gyro when I'm at it, all the better. I love me a thick, spicy gyro. I surely do. I enjoy the life of the event. I relish the chance to share moments with the other good-hearted folks. I'm not always looking for a ne'er-do-well to siphon from. Sometimes, most times really, these functions go off without a hitch. I just have a blast, and all is well. Coming to any given event, you don't know for sure if you're going to see one. Shoot, I've gone as long as a year or more between targets. I don't spend much time looking, as they usually appear of their own accord, like they're riding a conveyor belt to me and my guitar pick of reciprocity. As it happens today, a target comes, and it comes quick, while I'm passing the drum circle and snarfing the last bit of my damn tasty gyro. I'm watching my guy tonight like a hawk watching a mouse that's in turn hunting a bug. They never know I'm hovering overhead, and that's always going to be for the best. He makes his way through the crowd and at several intervals hits the bathroom stalls. Usually that means either he's chugging water like a camel or he's snorting cocaine every so often. Nothing wrong with that. Cocaine can be fun if it's uncut. Still miss the old days when I could buy it over the counter in a bottle of soda pop. The original Coke flavor was much, much better, I promise you that. However, he keeps ordering beers and handing them off to ladies he strikes up convos with as he meanders between the lighted pavilion and the vendor booths. He must be telling them that he's got extra and they can just save him the hassle of taking them back to his seat. Yep, I've seen this same routine more than a few times and it still ain't right, telling you. He's setting up his marks, then circling back around to reap the human vegetables from the sour seeds he's sown. And if everything goes right for his ends, he'll corner one of the really loopy ones, guide them to a porta-john, and possibly permanently rob them of their self-respect, or worse. Sometimes they're not just rapists. Sometimes they're killers. This one is a killer. I'm listening to those groovy tunes fill the fairgrounds and high-fiving a dude I've seen here every year for like 30 years, but still can't remember his name. When I catch sight of the sinner man I'm following, He starts grabbing a girl by the hair and rushing her into a porta-john as I'm suddenly sprung into response. Knowing I might have to settle for being a rude intruder, I cut away from this guy I've met before a whole bunch of times, then make the proverbial beeline for the plastic shitters. I get not halfway there when the John's door flies open and the long-haired raven girl shrieks away from the row of mobile toilets, not looking back. She stumbles onto the dusty ground, yet immediately springs back up and rushes away. That's all I need to see. He's not going to be doing that to anyone ever again. The gondolas in Telluride are quite spectacular at dusk and especially at night. First leg, you're drawn up a steep and semi-rocky face while watching the lights of the town below fall away from you. On all sides, trees envelop the earthen floor below. You quickly crest the mountain's edge, revealing a spectacular mountain village that would make the average alpine Swede blanch with jealousy. After a brief switch to the next gondola, you've got several minutes before you arrive at your next destination. That's where I've sapped more than a few of my ne'er-do-wells throughout the decades of coming up to Telluride. Just me and the target in the gondola up to the mountain village. Waiting in line behind my guy, I can smell him, and I'm here to tell you, it ain't the French cologne of the moment for this guy. No way. Rather, he's got that just bathed last month carry to him. Wildebeesty. None too uncommon with the hunters, if you're wondering. It's only a minute or two before we load up. Since he and I were near the end, we're guided onto the same car just as I planned. Careful to unshoulder the Martin as we get on, I lean in against the seat on one side while the uncool dude I'm riding with pops a squat on the other. In a stroke of telling luck, nobody else gets on. Also how I'd sort of planned it, though you can never tell how it'll go. Still, this is good. I don't have to wait if I don't want to. I can peel the years right here. Pulling a joint from my shirt's breast pocket, I stand up and crack a window. Supposing you don't mind if I take a toke now, do you, fella? Fuck nah, he mutters, leaning back and skitter-snorting as if he actually might have done some blow. Now this feller I'm about to play my signature ditty for, well, he just might have been one of the world's ugliest souls. A fiend of high order and low prestige. Or he could have been like any other monster that I've pulled from over the past couple centuries. After you've been strumming as long as I have, you come to some stark realizations about lots of things. One of those things is that while these monsters might come in all shapes, sizes, and colors, they are essentially all the fucking same. Stupid, awful, and dangerous, but ready to get got by those who knew how to get 'em. And that I do. I take a nice puff of the joint and hold it out for this reptilian buckaroo to snatch, which he does thusly. He ain't waiting. Taking an ungrateful several tokes on the J, he then hands it back, a half-done shell of its former self. I puff, then go ahead and break the ice. So I gotta say, some fine ass round here. Young ass, too. Been taking my time getting some here and there. Good shit, good shit. I hate to talk this way, Lord knows I do. But it's the stinky verbal cheese you gotta bait the spring trap with, so's when he lets his true nature take over, you know you got your man. Just for caution's sake. He cocks a scruffy eyebrow, wondering if I'm as depraved as he. Yeah? You beat some pussy the fuck up? I beat up some pussy, yes. Right the hell up. Beat it like Michael Jackson. And sometimes you gotta get creative and help him make the right decision if you get my tilt. A little pharmaceutical nudge in the right direction, know what I mean? He leans in real close like, a right grinning devil in Land's End clothing, and he chuckles while whispering my way. You know I do, I'm on the GHB tip, son. I like to get at 'em with the roofs, then, when they can't stop me from sticking it in any hole I want to, lead 'em to a stall and get it. Every hole if I want to. I reckon this vaguely human-shaped predator is just begging upon high to be made an example of, and how. But by now you surely know how. I've got a song to sing him, so I let him know. Gonna play a few notes of this one song, and if you like it, maybe you'll give me just one of them pills you got. And think of it next time you find a good little thing to run off with. Maybe this'll give you the extra oomph you need to get the party jumping. Whatever that means, but yeah. You got the chronic, so we'll go with that. I'll give you one. So sure, what you said. Play away, dude man. He flicks his wrist to indicate he wants the joint again. I let him take his last toke as a young man. Calibrating my volume to avoid anyone who might be anywhere nearby won't hear enough to have any effect on him. Slowly, I strum the worn-down frets and pluck out the opening chords while humming the words I put to the melody back in the late 1800s. The radiance of the sun casting down from above. A gift in question, the promise of love. Unravel the truth, mask over the fear. From a cold, broken heart, shed a single tear. And as my fingers roll over the body, tips tickling the taut and tuned strings in glorious harmony, my hands start to ache just a little less at first. But then, oh boy, yeah, I can feel the juice really start kicking in. And this rapist suckerfish who just met in me a shark he ain't even realized was gnawing on his leg yet, he gives up a big old shimmy of a shake as he feels something he can't describe or even determine fleeing from his body. Because really, no man is prepared for the physical sensation of having their vital essence sucked from them like a dang mosquito slurps up human Kool-Aid. No way. It wouldn't have been very clever to ask a fella how he felt after I shaved a decade or two from his existence, nor particularly considerate. It's hard to fit casually into a fireside chat, if you feel me. Not that I stick with them for long after. Another part of the path is to get it and get out without getting others. In layman's terms, I don't know what it feels like to them during or afterwards, and I don't much care. But fuck 'em's what I reckon. You shouldn't hurt ladies like that. And so I finish out the first verse of my song like, then bathe in the light, spread the seeds on the ground, toss the flowers in the air and wait for the sound. For soon it will come, and sirens will call. From the death of summer comes the birth of fall. My hands don't waste no time at all filling the air with the soft call of my own private siren song. The gripping chords reach into his essence and begin to drag up the goods, drawing his life force to the surface. I'm bringing the guy up close to the rocks. I might not crash his ship on the shore, but I'm taking some of his galleon's gold for my bounty, if you forgive the overtly nautical metaphor. I find tactful wording helps to blunt the raw grotesquerie of sucking a man's life from his still beating heart. He's closed his eyelids. Now, with the right set of peepers, you could almost see an arc of blue light flowing in a radiant wave from him to me. And just as with lightning, as soon as you see it, it's gone for good. But that's if you can see it at all, which most folks can't. I could tell you it's just part and parcel with the transfer that I feel something when I take from another. I could tell you I feel wildly guilty and that it doesn't feel like 100 orgasms stacked like pancakes in my spine and shot through my frontal lobe with a cannonball blast. And I could tell you that I don't love the sight of my hands smoothing, my hairs darkening, my muscles reshaping, and my body dropping off years like a snake sheds its flaky old skin. But if I told you all that, I'd be a liar, and that just ain't me. I'm gonna shoot you straight, because it's not too bad at all. I dig all that shit. I dig it like an earth mover. Who wouldn't? He, unmoving, starts to look a lot worse for the wear. Every wrinkle I lose, he gains. Every shade of dark beneath my eyes that clears, so do his bags darken. Muscles wither, skin dries and sucks in, blood slows half congealed inside shrinking veins. His dwindling vitality, my fresh air. It's my pleasure to pull from this beast. If he felt any compunction to resist or even realized what had occurred, I'd never know it. He sits and doesn't move until we're about to disembark. By then he's frail and meek. He won't be doing shit now. We got that boy healed, but good. As he steps off the gondola, he's surely feeling the chill of the Reaper, having drawn so much nearer in such a short little ride. His eyes look back at me as he leaves, wandering into the crowd. They're vacant, and I know he's already lost his mind to age and likely won't ever recall what his name was when he was a half-century younger, all of 5 minutes ago. He disappears then into the time fog, meandering like a befuddled cow in a pasture. And I just go ahead and stay on the gondola so's I can take it right back down. And that's what I do. A nice couple joins me, but when they ask if I can play, I just say, only the kind of stuff that no sane person would want in their lives, let me tell you. They tossed me a courtesy giggle, unsure entirely of my meaning, but that's good, and I'm glad. See, I'm sure there's others out there just like me. I can't be the only one. But if I am, I take heart knowing I can do my part in cleaning up just a bit of mess that mankind is too overwhelmed to pay any mind to. I like to help keep the good times a-rolling. We're all lucky to be here, man. We're all blessed. If you're reading this, then you're lucky enough to have your eyes, your ears, a nose, a mouth, and hopefully someone who cares about you day in and day out. And if no one else has said it to you today, I will. You ain't too bad yourself, bud. Just keep that in mind, and I'll keep strumming. And now that I got that taken care, it's time to go back to the fairgrounds and rejoin my tribe. Score some frosty brews, mayhaps toss back a liberty cap, and get hellaciously groovy, so's we can all dance the night away. Festival.
Since life forms first appeared on this planet, the strong has preyed upon the weak, for food, for dominance, and sometimes simply for sport. However, among humanity, some dedicate themselves to the protection of prey, driving back the predators and offering defense to those who otherwise have none. We've all found ourselves in situations we were unequipped to handle, often unpleasant and occasionally deadly. But for some, the quick thinking of others may be the very difference between life and death. Transmissions from the Campfire is produced by myself, Daniel Kelley, and by Patrick Kitson. Tonight's episode was engineered and performed by me, and is a copyrighted work that may not be reproduced or re-uploaded, in part or in full, without express written permission. Strummin is an original work of fiction written by Patrick Quinn Kitson, creator of the emergent Valley horror genre. More of Patrick's work is available in the short story collections Night and Day, and the forthcoming novels Talented and Pyre. If you enjoyed our time together, you can find more episodes of Transmissions from the Campfire on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or your favorite podcast directory. Please subscribe to be notified when each new transmission commences. Now, zip your jacket and cinch your collar tight, as the light of the fire dies down and our power cells are once again depleted. Temporary warmth gives way to the icy bitterness of existence with the return of dawn. Stay safe, traveler, until we meet again around the campfire.